Why the Boston Red Sox being buyers at the trade deadline still may actually make a little bit of sense.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to discuss the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you always tune in because I'm here every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, we made it to Friday, and it was a bumpy week for the Boston Red Sox as they just came off of a sweep where they did not play well at all against the Los Angeles Angels. And the biggest thing that is frustrating about that was that they had momentum, or so it seemed, after sweeping the Yankees and then winning their first series of the West Coast trip against the Mariners. And then they dropped the series against the San Francisco Giants and got swept by the Angels and are now currently on a 5-game losing streak heading into tonight's series against the Blue Jays. I'm going to be previewing that series on today's show, and you'll be hearing from a special pitcher in Major League Baseball. Also going to be talking a little bit about the possibility of an Alex Bregman extension. But first, what is all over Red Sox social media right now is Craig Breslow's comments from yesterday morning about the Red Sox and where they are at right now. And basically, Craig Breslow went on WEEI and was talking about the Red Sox season right now. And he was asked specifically, as of today, are the Red Sox buyers? And he said, we would be looking to improve our team for 2025. We're still very much staring down wildcard chances, and nobody has run away with the AL East. We think we've got a good chance to make a deep postseason run. So he made a big statement, and basically he was saying, we're not out of it, so why would it make sense to give up on the season right now? So why would this make a little bit of sense for the Boston Red Sox? Being buyers at the trade deadline makes more sense than you think it does. Now, when I say be buyers, I don't mean go and sell your whole future. The Red Sox can't really afford to do that because they have arguably the best future in the league right now with all the young talent they have in their system. You want to make sure that you keep that core intact. I don't mean go out and be aggressive and sell off guys like Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony. That would be pretty crazy. But there is a way that you can still feel like you're buying, but you're buying more for the future than you are for specifically just this season. So what I mean by that is the Red Sox should approach this trade deadline as, we want to become a better baseball team. And whatever that means, become a better baseball team means you are looking at now and the future, because there are going to be teams who go out there and go all in on this season because they feel like they can make a World Series run. That means you're selling off really talented prospects to get rental pieces in return that could help you make a World Series push this year. That's not what I'm saying the Red Sox should do. They definitely are not in a position to where they could do that, especially because since they have not been playing consistent baseball this year, it's hard to feel confident in their ability to make a deep playoff push this season as it is. What I am saying, though, is that when it comes to the playoffs, all you have to do is get in. And people do say that, but it really is true. I mean, ask the Diamondbacks from a couple seasons ago. Ask the Tigers from last year. Obviously, the Tigers didn't come out of the American League, but they had a serious surge in the second half of the season last year, and they ended up making the playoffs. And that was sort of the point that Breslow was trying to make, was that it's not necessarily fair to rule the Red Sox out at this point in the season Yes, they are a couple games under 500, but the Tigers last year, when they were way past this, were under 500. And from a talent standpoint, it's hard to argue that the Red Sox don't have the talent to where they could get hot at any time and make a push. Yes, it's frustrating. And yes, it might seem like it feels more logical to be sellers at this point. And you can still feel kind of like the Red Sox are sellers because they could sell the rental pieces. Like they could sell a guy like Aroldis Chapman and get a really good return because his value is high, but the return that they are getting are for players who are still veterans who maybe have control for another season or two and won't be free agents at the end of this year. So you're not feeling like you're investing in rentals at this point in the season, but you're investing in veterans who you could still surround the young talent with that could be here for at least another year to help guide these younger players and help solidify a winning culture. So is that buying? Yes, because you're not selling off a lot of your top prospects or your young talent. You're keeping your core intact, the guys that you feel like are realistically going to be a part of the future of this team, because you do have to be realistic about it. And sometimes you can trade a prospect who's going to be roadblocked in the majors and isn't going to necessarily have a spot in the field on this team when they come up. And that means essentially when you have guys like Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony on the roster, with the outfield that the Red Sox have right now, are a lot of outfielders in the Red Sox system going to be able to come up and be key contributors for this team? That's something the Red Sox need to figure out as they navigate through this next month or so, is what do we have in the system, and realistically, where are they going to play if they do eventually get called up? And I bring up Marcelo Meyer because you have him in a really prime position right now to where he can play his primary position, which is shortstop, but now he's proving that he can also play a serviceable third base because he's been really impressive defensively at that spot. He also has a little bit of experience playing second base and played it the other day for the Red Sox. So they really are showing that he is a movable piece who can play multiple infield positions. But the problem is going to be, do you have secure players locked up at all those spots? Because if the answer is yes to that, and you feel confident in this group that you have in the field, now you can start to think about prospects that may have value that you can trade away for really strong pitching that can help your team now and later. And that to me is more buying than selling. And you can still feel like you're doing a mix of both. For example, if you do trade a guy like Walker Bueller or Aroldis Chapman, that's addition by subtraction. You're kind of saying, okay, Walker Bueller has been struggling in our rotation, but maybe if we put him in a new environment for a potential playoff push, he'll play better because he was really solid down the stretch for the Dodgers last year. So maybe he's a guy who could help another team as a rental for a playoff push. He was only on a 1-year contract with us anyway. So maybe if we trade him, we try to think about getting pieces in return who could help us more for 2026 and beyond. But if we move Aroldis Chapman, who has been really solid for us, the downside to that is that we're kind of losing out on our closer, but we're acquiring pieces that can help our team now, because Aroldis Chapman is worth that, and he should give you a return of guys who can make an impact now and later. So by saying, okay, we're going to move Bueller and Chapman, we are moving away from a pitcher who has struggled in our rotation that really doesn't fully make our rotation better, but we're also losing a guy who has been a big piece in our closer. So in that regard, yes, you are selling, but you're still not really, because you are trying to add more pieces to think about now and the future. So the Red Sox could be buyers at the trade deadline, but not in the way you might think, where they're just going to be all out aggressive on acquiring deadline pieces that are rentals that will help them just for right now, and they're completely depleting their system for that. That's not the way to go 100%. You do definitely still want to think ahead to 2026 and where the team could be at then, but you can buy and get guys who are going to make an impact now and later, controllable pieces. That's where I see Craig Breslow going at this trade deadline, because then he's not saying I'm giving up on 2026 and beyond, or I'm not giving up on 2025. And I'm going to just say, okay, I'm going to try to add to this team, but more for now and the future, not just the right now. That's not the typical definition of buying, and that's where I think people are misunderstanding what they could do here. But it sounds like Breslow still wants to add to the team, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But coming up, another way they could really help this team is working out a contract extension with Alex Bregman. Why would that be completely 100% beneficial? If you're looking to go to any sporting event or comedy show or musical or concert, any live performance of any kind, Game Time has you covered with tickets. If you ever decide last minute to go to a game, definitely check them out. It happens to me all the time. My friends and I are really bad at making plans, so sometimes we decide spontaneously, oh, let's go to a game. So I've only ever used Game Time ever since I found out about it to get tickets, because for one, it's cheaper than a lot of other ticketing vendors, and for two, it shows you the view directly from your seat, so you know you don't have some sort of detrimental view where you're not able to see everything. I know at Fenway, some of the seats can be obstructed by the poles, so it helps you prevent that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It really does guarantee the lowest prices. I promise you, you will be very happy with it. So Craig Breslow went on WEEI yesterday and said, as of today, we are planning to add to the Red Sox. We haven't given up on 2025 because we still feel like we are in the running. Now, on one hand, I agree with that, because on one hand, that's basically saying we don't feel completely out of it because the AL East race is still relatively tight and we are right there in the wild card mix, which, yes, is true. They are not so far out to where they can't easily just go on a run and string together a few wins in a row and be right back in the mix. But on the flip side of that, with the inconsistency that this team has shown this year, it's hard to really picture them making a deep playoff run. But if you add the right pieces at the trade deadline, they can be a team that goes far. And I think we would be remiss to not even consider the fact that they have some key injuries right now. And one of those key injuries has been to Alex Bregman, who really was the best offensive contributor for this Red Sox team before going on the injured list. So that has obviously really hurt this team. So when he comes back, hopefully that'll be a difference maker for the Red Sox offense. But when he comes back, hopefully the Red Sox also can secure an extension with him. Alex Bregman and his team have said they are open to a new contract. He joined the team on a 3-year, $120 million deal this past offseason, but can opt out and become a free agent after this season. His agent, Scott Boras, said they are open to any conversation about a new contract. Boras said, I always tell the team, and Alex directs me to tell them, we're always open to any conversation. Any player who plays well somewhere, it's something that it's important for the team and important for the player. It's an additive. I think everybody is focused on the season, but the idea of it is if you have a player playing at a high level where he's at, that's important for the team to look and important for the player to look at. The Red Sox have to get this done. There is no other way around it. They have to get an extension done with him because it would be a huge blow to a team with a lot of young players to lose a key veteran leader in the clubhouse. 31-year-old Bregman is hitting .299 with 11 homers and 35 RBIs, but he has been on the injured list since May 23rd with a strained right quadriceps. Red Sox manager Alex Cora said the other day that he probably won't return until after the All-Star break. And Scott Boras said, I'm sure he'd like to be back yesterday. He's a quick twitch athlete, so we have to listen to the doctors, the trainers, and take our time to get him ready. It's about being smart. Between the Red Sox trading Rafael Devers and still not having Alex Bregman here because he's injured, the Red Sox offense has seriously struggled. And I knew when they traded Devers that in the short term it was going to hurt the team. And we didn't know how long the short term was going to be because the timeline for return for Bregman is still questionable, and it involved the Red Sox having to acquire another big bat to add to the lineup, which they still have yet to do. If Breslow says they are going to buy, I'm sure they're going to be looking at that market. And I have heard that he is pretty active on the first base market right now in particular. So we knew in the immediate short term that the Red Sox offense would struggle because of losing their two best hitters in Bregman and Devers. But if Alex Bregman secures an extension with the Boston Red Sox, that is locking down a guy longer term that has already been a great mentor to the younger players. There has been so much talked about him putting his locker next to Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and talking to them about their swings. He was actually seen pulling up the iPad, watching some of their at-bats with them and explaining to them what they could do better next time. Talk about learning from a true veteran who has a plethora of experience with winning, knows what it's like to show up in the biggest moments under pressure, and knows what it's like to win and be surrounded by a winning team and a winning culture. That's what Alex Bregman brings to the table off the field. And obviously, we can't talk about enough what he brings on the field with his Gold Glove caliber defense and the fact that he has been one of the best hitters on the team, if not the best hitter on the team before he got hurt. So his on the field play clearly makes a positive difference on this Red Sox team, but it really is more about what he brings off the field. And if the Red Sox are trying to think about their future and they want to build just this juggernaut of a team that can continue to win year after year, similar to what the Houston Astros had when Bregman was there. A team that just had a really strong foundation of players that could continuously win year after year, and that's why they kept coming out of the American League every year and going to the World Series, what seemed like all the time. And they basically had a guaranteed free pass to the ALCS every year, because nobody could beat them because they had such a well-constructed roster. That's what the Red Sox are trying to get to, is building a consistently winning team. And Alex Bregman came from one of those teams. So having him here surrounded by the young guys can't be overstated enough how important that is. Because if you look at where the Red Sox are at right now, this roster is young. There's no getting around that. You have a lot of talent, but it's young players, and you want them to learn how to execute the right way, and you want them to be surrounded by a guy who has been there, done that, and all of that is Alex Bregman. He has the experience, and that's why they wanted him in Boston in the first place, was so that he could be a veteran mentor to surround the younger talent with. And I know the Red Sox are interested in an extension too, because they know how important he has been to this team, and they know the value that he has provided, and they know that what he brings to the table has been a game changer for a team that's really looking for a guy who can lead them in that right direction. And while things have been frustrating for this Red Sox team right now, and things haven't been going the way that we had hoped they would, we can look at Alex Bregman and his role with the Boston Red Sox and say, hey, we have a guy here who can really help propel our young players to the next level. And it can be really exciting to watch Red Sox baseball moving forward because of what he brings. And if you couple him with another veteran bat, now that Rafael Devers has been traded, that could further amplify that leadership in the clubhouse. Because yes, you have Trevor Story also there who can provide leadership value because of the fact that he is also a veteran. But if you bring in another veteran who can play first base and you don't have to platoon Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro, now you're looking at a situation where you have a really strong mix of veterans and newbies on the team. And Abraham Toro and Romy Gonzalez have definitely both been solid in that role at first base. But if you bring in a true first baseman instead of platooning guys, then you don't have to rely as heavily on a guy like Romy, who can go back to being a utility player, and he can be a guy who can kind of play wherever the Red Sox need him to, instead of feeling like they have to lock him into first base because they don't really have another choice. So that would be the benefit to bringing in another first baseman who could play at that position basically every day and could provide a lot of value offensively. But the Red Sox would really drop the ball if they don't get Alex Bregman extended He can walk at the end of this season. If you had asked me this prior to him getting injured because of the fact that the Red Sox were struggling, I would have said, yeah, maybe I could see him walking because the Red Sox aren't really winning games. He wants to be on a winning team. However, now that his injury has prevented him from playing in a lot of games this year so far overall, it might be difficult for him to walk and go into free agency and expect a team to pay him the same amount of money that the Red Sox just gave him, because the Red Sox gave him a pretty hefty sum of money to play here for 3 years. And if a player comes off of an injury, especially if he doesn't bounce back at the exact same rate that he did, he's still going to be a really solid hitter for this Red Sox team, no doubt about it. But if it takes him a little bit to get going again, it might be hard for teams to take a flyer on him and accept paying that much money. So I think it's a less likely chance that he goes to free agency. However, with Scott Boras as his agent, you really never know what he's thinking and where he's going to end up. But to me, there's a really good chance that the Red Sox have to extend Bregman. I know he's open to listening to offers and he's open to listening to negotiations, and hopefully they can work it out before that time comes to where he's deciding to hit free agency and make him not even think about it. Give him enough money to where he wouldn't even consider leaving. And I know he's really excited about the Red Sox future. So that's another reason why he might want to stay, because he sees that the future is bright there. And if he wants to be a part of that, then he wouldn't leave anyway. But money does talk. The Red Sox need to make sure they're offering him something that he can't refuse. So make sure that you get that done. They really don't have a choice but to completely would drop the ball if they don't. So let's get to work on an Alex Bregman extension now. Red Sox also need to get to work on winning. And coming up, I'm going to be giving a preview of their upcoming series this weekend against the Blue Jays. Don't forget that Locked On Red Sox is available on YouTube or any other podcast platform Monday through Friday, where you can get the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, courtesy of yours truly here. As frustrating as the season has been, it's constantly fun and constantly trying to stay positive, but also be realistic. And with where the Red Sox are at right now, there are still some positive things that we can take. And all it really takes is just them getting one or two more pieces. And I feel like they could be a talented playoff team. The problem is just, are they going to get those pieces, and are they going to wait too long to get them? So make sure that you're tuning into Locked On Red Sox every day so that you don't miss out on the latest. Also, be sure to tune into Locked On MLB Game Night. I appreciate you making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day, but that can be your second. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. This is a great show because it goes over every game that took place that night, all the big stuff, so that you don't have to go on ESPN and check box scores, and you know that you're hearing the latest and you're not missing out on anything big. So make sure that you check out Locked On MLB Game Night on YouTube or any other podcast platform next. Are the Red Sox going to be buyers at the trade deadline? How they play over the next few weeks could help determine that. As of today, Craig Breslow said they are buyers. But the key word there is today. If they continue to lose a bunch of baseball games, then it would really be impossible for him to say, yeah, we're going to add to the 2025 team. However, like I just explained, it would also be counterproductive for them to completely sell, because if they completely do this fire sale, they also could be destroying their future, in that then they might have no veteran leadership to surround their young players with. So you want to hang on to the key leaders that are helping with this team, but you also can focus more on the future than the present if you don't feel like the present team is going to contend. The difference would be if you feel like they're going to contend, you can focus on both. And they do have an upcoming series against the Blue Jays this weekend that they really need to make a statement in. Back from the West Coast trip, back home to replenish, back off of the late night West Coast games, and hopefully able to adjust, coming off of an off day yesterday. And they currently sit at 40-42. 7 games back of first place in the AL East as this is being recorded. The Rays and the Blue Jays are both ahead of them right now, with the Blue Jays playing really good baseball right now. And they are a team that could be a threat, especially because they have a talented roster. And every year over the last few years, it's been talked about how the Blue Jays have underperformed, because they certainly have a roster to make a deep run. And this will not be an easy series. And the Red Sox are scheduled to go in this 3-game series and throw Brayan Bello out there on Friday night, Lucas Giolito on Saturday, and Walker Buehler on Sunday. The Blue Jays pitchers haven't been announced yet, but based on those pitching matchups, Brayan Bello, don't really know what we're getting from him. He's been a little bit up and down, but overall, as of late, he has been really solid. And I'm hoping that it's because he has started to figure things out and he's honed in on what works for him on the mound. And I really have liked what we've seen from him as of late, but he's the type of guy who could fold at any time because he doesn't always have his command. And when he doesn't have his command, things kind of fall apart because it's hard for him to pitch around that. So hopefully his command is there because he has good stuff and he can be really hard to hit as long as he has control of that strike zone. Then you have Lucas Giolito on Saturday, who has been so up and down for this Red Sox team. It's been crazy. But when he's on, he has been insanely good. When he's on, he can give you 6 or 7 innings. But the problem is that's an if, because when he's not on, he just gets hits all over the place. And the fastball velocity is a big thing for him that I have noticed that determines his outings, because his fastball velo sometimes will average 97 and sometimes will average just 91. And obviously, if he averages 91 on the fastball, he's going to get smoked. So the fastball velo is something to keep in mind when it comes to him and where he's at right now. We need him to be consistent, and we need him to go out there and perform at the level in which we know he is capable of performing. Then Walker Buehler on Sunday. This one, unfortunately, could be rough. Walker Buehler has seriously struggled, and in his most recent start, he got walked all over again. And we've seen some very rough outings from him in which he can't even make it into the 4th inning, no less 5 or 6 innings. And I'm hoping that's not the version of Buehler that we get this weekend. I'm not confident because obviously there's something with him that he hasn't been able to hone in on, and he knows that he hasn't been able to do his job this year. But that's the thing, is you could win the series before that, and then whatever happens Sunday happens. It's about winning series. You're not going to win every game, so you can't realistically expect to sweep everybody. But what you can do is you can at least take 2 of 3. And I'm hoping that the Red Sox have taken the first 2 games so that by Sunday we don't have to stress as much about Buehler and that we're not relying on him to win the series for us. Obviously, the bats need to wake up because the bats have been a big struggle as of late for this Boston Red Sox team. And they have been something that has been a serious concern because they haven't been able to drive in runs with situational opportunities. And that's another big thing to keep in mind going into this series. I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about all those things based on how the Red Sox have looked, but they got to go out there and they got to do their job. And that means playing clean baseball, because a Blue Jays team like this is going to be able to capitalize on mistakes. They haven't announced their pitchers yet for the series, but hopefully if the Red Sox play their version of baseball and they do things the right way, it doesn't really matter who they're facing, because they have the capability to work pitch counts and they have the capability to go after pitchers. They just strike out a ton and they haven't been playing clean defense. So a lot of the Red Sox issues are them beating themselves. Take out the opponent, it's the Red Sox beating themselves. That needs to stop this weekend against the Blue Jays. And speaking of the Blue Jays, I actually spoke with Hall of Fame pitcher Max Scherzer, who made a rehab start versus Tanner Houck in Worcester last week. And it's funny because they both went to Mizzou for college. And it's really rare that you have 2 major league players making a rehab start against each other in AAA at the same time. So I asked him a little bit about his relationship with Tanner Houck. He talked a little bit about that, as well as how he felt physically and what he's looking forward to the most about getting back to the Blue Jays. So he talked about all of that. Make sure to tune into that clip right now.
I'm doing well. Got my pitch counts where I wanted to get it today. So I kind of checked that box. Had to deal with some long innings, with the flow of the game and navigate it well. And I thought I threw the ball better than last time. I was kind of getting some long range Bs. Pitch count got up, but that's just part of baseball. So there was a lot of good out of today. You're dealing with all the variables. I mean, You could also have quick innings, and that's a variable, and long innings are a variable. So it's just something you got to navigate, something you got to deal with, and that's baseball, and you got to be able to deal with that. Physically, pretty good, but like I've always said here, that I won't know exactly how this goes until tomorrow. My hand has always been a situation until I'm actually in major league games, recovering from major league starts, and being good. I don't have a smile on my face. I don't feel like I'm out of the woods. So tomorrow's a bigger day than today, and making sure that I can recover from this start. I'd rather face them in the big leagues, rather than be a Red Sox and face them there. So don't like being down here and the minors and having to face them. So I think we're both in the same situation on that. We work out at Cressy's together. So I've met him a few times at different Mizzou functions, and then got to know him better there at Cressy's. So keep tabs on him, and we talk shop, and as we're training throughout the whole off season. So kind of got to know him pretty good. If we didn't have a DH, it'd be way better, right? that'd be a lot more fun. So I didn't get to face him, so not really anything in my day where I'm going against him. So I'm going against their opposing lineup. It's not about the hits or kind of the results. It's kind of the process. That I think a little bit too many walks. Like that's the first thing I'd go to is they especially that 4-pitch walk. That's where my arm was kind of getting a little fatigued. I was kind of going through that inning, arm got fatigued, so that's a bad walk. But then was able to collect myself and be able to get the pitches back to where I wanted to on the next at bat. So, like I said, it's kind of the process of spring training as you're building back up your pitch counts. You kind of run into that, but I was able to work myself out of that as I was starting to get fatigued.
Is there anything mechanically that you're trying to focus on as you continue through your rehab?
That's a good question. I can give you a specific answer on that. I've actually picked up this weird, kind of pause in my delivery, and it's starting to show up sometimes in the game, and so I got to get that out. I got a bad habit right now, so I'm constantly telling myself to not pause. I want to have a good, quick leg kick, and I get this little slight pause in there that I get rid of. So from that mechanic standpoint, I don't know. I got a bad tick right now. I just got to break it. We'll make the best decision for the organization and myself, what we do next. Last time out I was at 56 pitches. I think today I got to 76. You don't want to go more than 20 pitches as you're increasing your pitch count. So for me, that checks that box. That's the most I want to take on in an additional outing. So we'll see what we want to do next.
The Blue Jays have been playing pretty good baseball so far. What are you most looking forward to get up there?
No, just get back with the guys and pitch and try to help the ball club win. I mean, like you said, I've been playing really good baseball, and I've been dying. It's been fun to watch it on the bench, but I don't like being on the bench. I want to be out there competing and helping the team win. So whenever that day does come, can't wait to get back out there and try to help the ball club win.
Yeah, so obviously Max Scherzer had nothing to do with interest in pitching at the minor league level. But, I understand he's probably a most likely Hall of Fame pitcher, and he just wanted to be back in the majors. He's not scheduled to pitch in this series against the Red Sox because he did just pitch for Toronto, but still pretty cool to have things come full circle of him throwing in Worcester against Tanner Houck and now going and playing the Red Sox this weekend and being in their division. So pretty cool full circle moment there, but hopefully the Red Sox can win the series. That's all I have to say on that. Thank you for tuning into Locked On Red Sox. Really appreciate the constant support. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.